Hi, it's Sessions at AOL. I'm Chris Doritas with John Frusciante of Chili Peppers.
Hi, 15 million people.
So good to have you here. We're actually in the rehearsal space where you guys are warming up for the upcoming tour.
Right.
For the new album, By the Way, which is, by the way, fantastic.
Thanks.
Got to hear a bit of it yesterday. It's got to be a weird time because you guys have been putting the record together. You're still mixing it right now. Already the tour is lined up for just a few weeks from now. Can you explain that feeling of being on the verge of letting the songs out into the world? The record's coming out in a few weeks.
Yeah. I think, the audience is kind of, in the back of our heads the whole time, and I think that, the fact that it's going to people, it doesn't determine what we choose to play, but as we're playing the stuff, and once a song is written, or as it's being born, something might cross our mind how good it would be to play it in front of people, or just how good it would be to not be, somebody in the band, but to be somebody just who gets that music as a gift in their home or whatever, is always a nice thought. But in general, I really focus on the recording of the music and the mixing of it, and all that is in the writing of it is really real exciting time for me. Three of the 4 albums that I've done with the band, the writing process was, as fun as it. The 3 most recent ones that I've done in the band have been like the happiest, times in my life that I remember. Just because it's such a simple thing when all your purpose is. For me, it's when my purpose is just to be creative, to write songs, to play guitar, to think about what kind of style, what direction I want my playing to go in, what direction I want the sound of the band to be in. It's all just really natural and fun for me. Once it comes out, I don't really have any connection with how it gets out to that many people so it's not really that exciting for me when it comes out. To me, the exciting thing has been what we've been doing for the last year, as we've been writing it and recording it and stuff. The releasing of it, I see that that's what needs to be done, and I look forward to playing for people and stuff. But the fact that the record is suddenly not just something that me and Rick Rubin and whoever are listening to, but it's something that like is in all these record stores and stuff. It's an overwhelming thought, and it's not one that I really have much of an understanding of, really.
Well, the connection goes full circle then when the tour happens and you guys are on the road and you're performing the songs out in front of the audience and with the fans. And I guess that's a whole other phase for you guys, right? Having to learn the songs for live performance, rehearse the songs for the tour, and then it's another getting adjusted period, isn't it? Where you can live with the songs long enough to, because they're new songs, you're still sort of living with them, right? You're still getting to know them, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll change, and they'll change throughout the time that we're touring. If we tour for the next couple of years, the songs are going to be in a constant state of change, because that's what we have to do to keep it interesting for us and exciting, And when we're on stage playing for the audience, it has to be exciting to us. It can't just be we rely on something being the same way it was a year ago because we know it worked then. That's not enough for us. For us, there has to be spontaneity, and there has to be that excitement of the moment to make it worth continuing to do it. So, but right now the songs are in a really infant-like state because, on the album there's so many overdubs and stuff, and there's lots of, they're playing them as a 4-piece band is just a new thing. So I kind of have to think of new ways of simplifying backing vocal parts and choosing only one guitar part at a time, and that kind of thing is something I'm still sort of figuring out on some stuff. Some stuff I don't know about, like we'll have to have some kind of technical means to do it live. Like one song requires a loop of like 5 guitars at the same time, which I can do, but we don't have a way yet of doing it in time. But there is a way out there. I just don't know what it is.
Are you talking about Dosed?
Dosed, yeah.
Dosed, yeah, the loop song. Because that was I guess loop song was the working title for it, right?
Yeah.
And then it became Dosed on the record.
Mm-hmm.
That speaks to a big issue that you must be struggling with. The fact that, because on this record, your backup harmonies and your vocal presence is much more apparent than ever before. I mean, you're layered across this album in a way that you haven't been in previous records, right?
Right. Well, I think at the time of Blood Sugar, I just didn't have much interest in singing. I did it here and there when it was somebody else's idea, like Anthony's idea or Rick's idea. And the same thing for Californication. It was Rick who really sort of practically forced me to sing backing vocals and to make up backing vocal parts for different parts.
Why was that? Why were you reluctant or not interested, or
I don't
the
know.
songs didn't ignite you that way, or they?
It's not that. I guess I just had never really listened. Obviously, we've all listened to a lot of music with a lot of backing vocals, but I just hadn't really focused on that. I was always somebody who listened more to the guitar, you know.
There's a sweetness to the record. You know, there's this, I don't know, it's got a real feel-good vibe to it, you know. It seems like you've been really expanding yourself as a vocalist.
Yeah. Also, just the album, I think, was equally one thing I like about when I listen to the record. I mean, not that I've listened to it yet because it's not finished. But,
still being mixed, by the way, as we speak.
But when I think about the songs on the record, they seem to be equally influenced by music from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and the last couple of years too, because a lot of great records came out while we were recording the record.
Specifically, what? What were you guys listening to that was new during the course of the record?
For me, the new Aphex Twin album and an Autechre album came out while we were doing it. That was really great. Boards of Canada's album came out. It was really great.
Progressive, ambient, electronic stuff.
I like that stuff. Also, Modest Mouse, their album that came out was really great and inspirational for me as a guitar player because I like his surf sort of influence in his playing, which I also have in my guitar playing. And also the Stereolabs album, Sound Dust, that came out was really inspirational to me, especially in the vocal department.
What are the touchstones for the guitar work we're hearing on the record? Any particular guitar inspirations other than, I think you mentioned one or two things, but what else went into the sounds that we're hearing instrumentally from you on the record?
The Argument is the name of the Fugazi record.
The Argument, okay.
The inspiration for the guitar sounds?
Yeah. I mean, can you...
Well, the guitar players that I sort of had in my mind when we started writing the record, that I felt like I wanted to incorporate those people's styles into my style and focus. Because I always have guitar players that I'm studying, sort of learning all their songs and trying to understand why they come from the place they come from and why they think of the things they think of and stuff. I've always done this for whatever album I'm working on. So that's how I practice guitars. I learn from other guitar players, you know. And the guitar players that I was paying attention to were John McGeoch from Susie and the Banshees and Magazine. Also John Carruthers Valentine, who also played in Susie and the Banshees. Johnny Marr from The Smiths. And Vinnie Riley from the Darude column. These people all have sort of chordal, colorful sort of guitar styles, and that's how I wanted my playing to be on this album, to have more thick chords and less so you could tell exactly what I was doing at any given moment, and more sort of more colorful and washy kind of, and just less distinct, you know. I wanted it to have more like reverb and stuff, and more textural chords and stuff. So it's fascinating to me how you kind of give yourself these assignments in a way as you're going into making the record. Is this something that comes from band discussions? Is this something that individually? No, this is me just trying to to constantly change as a guitar player, and I think, I don't know, I'm probably the only guy in the band who actually does that or thinks that way, you know. And I also sort of have, I think the other guys are more sort of, you know, which is an element that the band needs, which is more, you know, taking it a day at a time and letting the music present itself rather than forcing yourself on the music. But it's just my way of thinking to want to, you know, even if all my ideas don't end up becoming, you know, part of the record, to me it's important just to have a lot of ideas, you know. A lot of the ideas that I had initially before we ever wrote a note of music ended up being very much the way the album sounds, but at the same time there was a lot of ideas that I had that didn't end up being a part of the way the record sounded at all, you know, because so many things, including the other people in the band and our producer Rick Rubin, all these things, you know, can make things happen or can send things into the garbage disposal.
You know, this is the fourth record you've done with the band, which you mentioned that earlier. Mother's Milk, Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic, right? Californication, and now By the Way. And there was a record in between, One Hot Minute, that you weren't on with the band. So there were two records, one without you and then two more with you, right? And on this one, I feel like the band is just coming up another level. You guys must feel it too, right?
Yeah, I feel strongly.
Yeah, and it just makes me wonder. The band's been together for 18 years, but they really haven't had consecutive. They haven't had a solid lineup on any more than two consecutive records. You know, so they haven't really had a chance to gel as a band with a foursome for a period of records beyond two records, right? So
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely, like, I don't really consider that record in my own personal viewing of the history of the band, just because I've never listened to it. So.
You're talking about One Hot Minute?
Yeah. So I've never listened to it. I just, to me, there seems to be in a way, there's a connection between Blood Sugar and Californication, but in another way, we kind of started fresh, you know. I certainly had lost all the momentum as a musician that I had during the time of Blood Sugar. By the time we started writing Californication, I was starting from scratch as a guitar player. My technique was at an all-time low, and I was doing the best that I could do, and I'm real proud of it.
Yeah. So you feel like you've been playing catch-up in a way?
Well, not really. I mean, I feel like I just went another direction on Californication, rather than being inspired by stuff like Jimi Hendrix, which at the time I just didn't have that strength in my fingers to be able to sound like Jimi Hendrix at that time. Whereas on Blood Sugar, my fingers were very strong, and that's, you know, one of the main people that I was taking a lot of inspiration from. On Californication, I chose to focus on guitar players like Matthew Ashman from Bow Wow Wow and Bernard Sumner from Joy Division, because these people were within my technical means at that time, and to me they're equal to Jimi Hendrix, because I don't think of anybody as being like the great god of guitar playing. I think of all guitarists as being all good guitarists that I love, as I love them all equally, you know.
Wow,
so I felt like I could do something just as beautiful with my playing, just by being influenced by people who had less technical means at their disposal. And, you know, in a lot of ways I like what I did on Californication better, just because I was really doing the best that I could possibly do. Whereas on Blood Sugar, I think for what I was capable of at that time, I think I did the worst I could have done.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, John Frusciante, we're at Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's Sessions at AOL.